A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
From Hollywood, we present The Eternal Light.
In every man there is something good and precious, which is his own, and which is in no one else. Let us therefore praise God for it, and honor each man for that which lies hidden within him.
The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light in a special series coming to you from Hollywood under the auspices of the West Coast branch of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is the season of the Liberation Festival known as the Passover, and to mark its celebration, we present Morton Wishengrads' The Passover of Rembrandt von Rijn, featuring Barry Kroger as Rembrandt.
It was in the year 1659 that Meneer Jacob van Kampen was delegated by the Venerable Council of the city of Amsterdam to propose a new commission to the painter Rembrandt van Rijn. Bearing in mind that Rembrandt was a consummate painter, Meneer van Kampen had the forethought to put on his best suit of clothes. Remembering also that Rembrandt was said to be a notorious wastrel, Meneer van Kampen selected a stout walking stick. And recollecting, finally, that through a rare combination of thriftlessness and bad investments, the painter had only recently been declared a bankrupt by the Insolvency Chamber of Amsterdam, Meneer van Kampen thoughtfully left his wallet at home. Thus equipped, Meneer van Kampen journeyed to the Keizerskrön hostelry, where he found the painter unrepentant.
Oh, shut the door, there's a draft!
And altogether disordered.
Take the clothes off the chair and sit down.
And in his bath.
Hot water. Oh. A poor man's pleasure.
My dear Rembrandt, I have something of importance to discuss with you. Please have the decency to climb out of that tub.
Meneer van Kampen, it was for the sake of decency that I climbed into the tub. Make yourself useful. Take the brush and scrub my back.
I beg your pardon?
Why? You do something? There's the brush.
Excuse me. I came to discuss a serious matter, a proposition.
Then scrub between my shoulder blades. I'll be putty in your hand.
Oh,
you'll be able to do anything you want to with me. Come. Scrub!
This is ridiculous.
Scrub!
Oh.
Meneer van Kampen, you fathom me, my skin is somewhat tougher than a butterfly's eyelash. Be good enough to scrub a little harder. Now! Van Kampen, I'm not an elephant. That's just right. A bit to the left. And a little lower. A little more. Meneer van Kampen, I have a painter's eye. Have I ever told you that you're a fine figure of a man?
Oh? Why, that
don't stop scrubbing. Now, you were saying something about a bit high. That's right. Something about a proposition?
Yes. The city council would like a painting for the new town hall.
You've scrubbed enough, thank you. Van Kampen, I always like to have a clear head when important matters are discussed. What's the proposition?
Firstly, that this time you finish your painting on the date we specify.
Do they want it good or do they want it on Tuesday? A painting is finished when a painting is finished. And I'll say so. What's next?
We will select the subject.
You will, Van Kampen, do I tell you how to buy and sell real estate?
Well, no, Rembrandt.
I'll paint a subject I consider suitable.
But
I rather fancy something from the Bible.
Well, we thought a large painting of the town council itself would be rather
Fantastic.
the...
What do you think of Moses, bringing down the tablets of the law from the mountain.
Well, I have no opinion on Moses. What we had in mind was...
And we're agreed on the subject.
Yeah.
How much?
100 guilders.
Get out!
200 guilders?
You paid $9 million for the town hall. I want 1,000 guilders.
My dear Rembrandt, for an artist, I must say you're quite mercenary.
Van Kampen, if you turn a bit toward me, I can spit directly into your left eye. What do you mean, mercenary? Is an artist less than a stonemason or a carpenter? When my belly is empty, I'm just as hungry as you are. 500 guilder, not a stiver less.
350.
Settled. Now I've got to find a Moses to sit for me.
Rembrandt.
Don't interrupt, I'm thinking.
I'll be glad to pose for you. You? Well, you just said that I was a fine figure of a man, and
Van Kampen, you have the good-natured, wholesome, earnest face of a vegetable dinner. Now be a friendly vegetable and give me the towel. I've got to find me a Moses.
Well, where are you going to look?
Among the descendants of Moses.
Well, don't you think it'd be more discreet to look among the members of the town council?
Van Kampen, come here.
Yeah?
I will tell you a secret.
You will, Rembrandt?
Listen. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses. Choose. Every last one of them.
Yes, I see what you mean.
I thought you would. Quickly, Van Kampen, my shoes. I've got to find Moses.
In the year 1659, Rembrandt von Rijn went into the streets of Amsterdam in quest of Moses. While the venerable town council waited, Rembrandt searched.
Rembrandt, they're impatient. At least submit a sketch.
Mynheer Van Kampen, please be good enough to fall down the stairs.
The town council contained its impatience. But early in the month of April in the year 1659, they deputized Mynheer Jacob van Kampen to visit the painter once again.
I am authorized to inform you that the painter Ferdinand Ball has been invited to submit a sketch.
Who invited him?
The Domine.
The Domine is making a mistake.
The sketches have already been submitted.
I won't be pushed or prodded or driven or goaded.
Rembrandt, you're shouting.
Mynheer Van Kampen, I can't lose that commission. I need the money.
Then you'll produce your sketches this week, and you'll complete your painting in 10 days.
You're a good fellow, Van Kampen.
10 days, Rembrandt.
I don't paint that way. I've got to find a Moses who looks like Moses. I've got to paint what I feel is true.
You're shouting again.
All right. Go back to them. Tell them I'll do the best I can.
I shall tell them the painting will be done in 10 days.
Van Kampen, listen. I've been reading the Bible. Moses stood upon the mountain, and he talked to God himself. And when Moses came down from the mount, the people ran to him. And when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face sent forth beams of light, and they were afraid to come near unto him. Van Kampen, that's what I want. Moses holding up a tablet of the law, and a light shining from his face. Me, almost afraid to paint, and you almost afraid to look. Van Kampen, you understand me, don't you?
I shall tell them the painting will be done in 10 days.
In the first week of April, Rembrandt von Rijn went into a slum of Amsterdam. And here had come Christian refugees from England and France, and Jewish refugees from Eastern Europe. On the edge of a canal that carried its cargo of refuse and garbage odorously to the sea, there stood the stall of a bread seller. Within the stall sat a man, white-bearded, with white hair crowned by a black skull cap. Before him were piled the enormous loaves of black bread baked after the fashion of Eastern Europe. The bread seller sat there, motionless, impassive, serene.
You sell bread?
I sell bread.
By the pound or by the loaf?
Yes.
I've been standing here for quite some time.
I know.
You don't have many customers?
No, I do not have many customers.
So it gives you time to read.
If you are finished staring at me, and if you have no more questions, I should like to continue reading.
Please, forgive me, but what are you reading?
Very well. I will read it to you. Kablu, Alechem, Malchus, Shemayim. Ve'his nahagu, ze im ze, digmilah, chasodim.
What does it mean?
To love God truly, one must first love man.
What is your name?
I am Abram of Lublin. They call me Abram Lublin.
I'm a painter. My name is Rembrandt. They say we come from a place near the Rhine, and so they call me Rembrandt von Rijn. Abram of Lublin, your face is the face of one who wrote 10 words upon 2 tablets of stone. I should be greatly honored if you will allow me to paint your face.
I have no objection. But first, let me give you a piece of bread. It is good bread, Rembrandt.
A pencil is quick. It abstracts from a face that which is hidden in a face. The thing that inspirits the face. Not merely cheekbones that are wide, or a forehead that is high, or the curve of a nose, or the curl of a lip, or the expression of an eye. All these things together, but more. The total of these things, the sum, the essence, the distillation of spirit. A pencil is quick, but a brush goes more slowly. For the brush illuminates because it remembers the dark places. On the 10th day of April in the year 1659, Meneer Jacob van Kampen returned to the Kaisersgrain hostelry to claim a painting.
Is this your Moses?
Not yet.
The paint is dry on the canvas.
Meneer van Kampen, a painting isn't finished when the paint is dry.
It looks good enough to me.
I'm not satisfied.
Rembrandt, I'm not an artist, but I know what I like.
Van Kampen, this isn't a handbag that you're judging for taste. I painted Abram of Lublin. That's not good enough. I want Moses of Sinai and the beam shining from his face.
This is the 10th day.
It isn't good enough.
If it satisfies the council, it will hang in the town hall. I'll bring you the 350 guilders.
Give me another week.
Ferdinand Ball brought his canvas last week, Rembrandt. A contract is a contract and must be respected.
So must the painting be respected. This isn't ready. Look at it.
I've already told you, Rembrandt. It looks good enough to me.
It needs some inner light.
It's good as it is.
Van Kampen, try to understand me. There was once a Greek sculptor named Phidias. Once a man scolded him because he was working on the back of a statue. Who sees the back? The man asked. And Phidias said, the gods see the back. Van Kampen, the gods see the back of this canvas. I've got to satisfy the God in me. I want the money. I need it. But you commissioned Moses, and all I've painted is Abram. Well, the council, I'm sorry.
They hung a painting by Ferdinand Ball in the town hall of Amsterdam. And Meneer van Kampen took a few guilders from the wallet he had this time remembered to bring and gave the money to Rembrandt van Rijn.
Rembrandt, it isn't charity. Call it a down payment on a portrait you'll make for me. If you like, I can sit for you now.
I've treated you like a fool, haven't I?
You're a great man, Rembrandt. I'm only a merchant.
There's a quality in your face, Van Kampen. It's always been there. I just didn't see. If you let me, I'll paint that quality. But not now. Now I've got to find what's unique in the face of Abram of Lublin. Then I'll have my Moses.
All art is obsession. It comes forth like a secretion from 1,000 wounds, and this is what the painter etches into copper and spreads over canvas. And until the canvas dries and the work is finally halted, the soul of the artist is morbid with self-hatred. For he knows that the work is only put aside, that it can never be done, that the best he can attain is a truce, but never victory. In the third week in April 1659, the painter Rembrandt von Rijn, seeking a truce within a light, went once more along the canal of a street in Amsterdam. The night was dark, and the streets were dimly lit. But his feet carried him straight to the dwelling of Abram of Lublin. He paused outside. He waited in the night, a stranger. And within the dwelling was a man called Abram of Lublin, his wife, his son, his kinfolk. And something more. There was also within the dwelling the first evening of the celebration of Exodus out of Egypt, the moment of origin of the people of Israel, the origin in revolt and flight, the discovery of uniqueness, the uniqueness that belongs to all. Rembrandt listened in the darkness, and then he heard the voice of Abram the bread seller.
This is the unleavened bread of affliction which our forefathers ate in the land of Egypt. Let those who are hungry enter and eat with us. Let those who are forlorn come and celebrate the Passover with us. Baruch habo. Blessed be he who comes. Rembrandt von Rijn, I make you welcome. I am glad you came.
I am Abram's wife. This is my family. These are my friends and neighbors. Will you sit down?
I don't belong here.
You belong, Mynheer Rembrandt. Is someone with you?
No, I'm alone.
All people who are alone belong with us on the Seder night of the Passover.
Please, sit down. We are beginning the Seder. I will explain it to you as we go along.
No, please, don't explain. Just forget I'm here.
Rembrandt, I must explain. What is this Passover Seder? It is only a lesson. From beginning to end, a lesson for children. See, we begin now with the child's question, with 4 questions. Why is this night different from other nights in the year?
It was not the child of Abram who sang. It was not Abram himself. It was not his wife or his kin. It was the total of these things, the sum of all Israel, its history, its faith, its future. Rembrandt von Rijn shivered and was cold, for Abram of Lublin sat against a pillow, and no more was he the seller of bread. The face was serene, but the expression was no longer patient and impassive.
Avodim ayinu leFaro b'Mitzrayim. Slaves of Pharaoh were we in Egypt, and the Lord our God brought us forth with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. Rembrandt van Rijn.
Yes, Abram.
Even you were brought forth from Egypt by the Lord our God. Every man in all times must come forth out of his own Egypt.
I know.
Rembrandt, the words are written in Hebrew and in your own language. Will you read?
Here is the place, Rembrandt. Read from here.
And if the Holy One, blessed be his name, had not brought forth our fathers from Egypt, then surely we and our children and our children's children would yet be enslaved to Pharaoh. Therefore, even if all of us were rich in wisdom and entire of understanding, nevertheless would it be necessary for us to repeat once more the story of the Exodus out of Egypt. And he who delights to dwell upon the liberation, he is a man to be praised.
This was the Passover of Rembrandt van Rijn, and his heart received the melodies that were sung. And his eyes regarded Abram of Lublin, and saw him as though for the first time.
Abram, the light that is within you is the light of this festival, the unleavened bread upon this dish, the memory of your fathers, the knowledge of what you have been.
It is the same with you, Rembrandt, and with all people. That is why the first time we met, I read to you that the true knowledge of God begins with the love of man.
Abram, why do you dip your finger in the wine?
My wife will tell you.
Because the Lord visited 10 plagues upon the Egyptians, and so as we recite the plagues, we dip our fingers 10 times in the wine.
Yes, but why?
Because the Egyptians were smitten by plagues, and the Talmud says that they were also men and women, and their blood is red as ours.
But they were your persecutors. They killed your male children.
Yes, Rembrandt. They killed. And in turn they were smitten by God. But it is set down in the Talmud that when the Egyptians perished in the Red Sea and the angels rejoiced and began their alleluias, the Lord rebuked them and said, "Creatures of mine are perishing in the sea. How can you sing a song?"
Rembrandt van Rijn looked upon Abram of Lublin, Abram the seller of bread, and to the order of the festival, Rembrandt added his own verse from the book of Exodus.
And it came to pass, when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in his hands, that he knew not that the skin of his face sent forth beams of light. And behold, they were afraid to come near unto him.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
They sang a psalm of David, and Rembrandt read the words of the psalm.
When Israel came forth out of Egypt, the house of Jacob from a people of strange language, Judah became his sanctuary, Israel his dominion. The sea saw it and fled. The Jordan turned backward. The mountains skipped like rams, the hills like young sheep. What aileth thee, O thou sea, that thou fleest? Thou Jordan, that thou turnest backward? Ye mountains, that ye skip like rams, ye hills like young sheep. Tremble, thou earth, at the presence of the Lord, at the presence of the God of Jacob, who turned the rock into a pool of water, the flint into a fountain of waters.
Hallelujah! 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 Hallelujah!
and they had related the bondage not only of Israel, but of all who live. The bondage to the darkness that lies within. And even as bondage is the beginning of all liberation, so also is darkness the beginning of all light. Even the light, the inner light that came from Abram, the immigrant from Lublin. And Rembrandt von Rijn held the light carefully within the sockets of his eyes and within the reservoir of his brain. And holding it thus, he returned to the mean, squalid room where he lived. And he placed the light upon the face of Abram. And behold, the tablet of the law said, "Thou shalt." And the face became the face of Moses.
Jacob von Kampen.
Yes, Rembrandt?
I have finished my exodus for now.
Your exodus?
Yes. I have made as much peace with myself as I am able. Now, if you wish, I shall paint your portrait.
Thank you. But, Rembrandt, I warn you that...
Sit there. Find a comfortable position. Don't strain.
Rembrandt, I warn you, I'm not even this bread seller of yours. There isn't any light that comes from me.
You're wrong. Every man shines forth his own light. The thing is to know wherein in every man you must look. And when you find it, the thing to know is that you have found it.
Rembrandt, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that it isn't your Moses that hangs in the town hall of Amsterdam.
It doesn't matter. What matters, Van Kampen, is that I have polished the back of my statue and satisfied my God.
I'm not a quick man. I don't understand.
Munir, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. Just raise up your face so that it holds the light.
Eternal Light dramatization today, The Passover of Rembrandt von Rijn, was written by Morton Wishengrad. This program came from Hollywood and featured Barry Kroger as Rembrandt. Lou Merrill played Von Kampen, and Paul Frees was Abram. Our narrator was Paul Marion. The orchestral music was composed by Morris Mamorsky. Liturgical music was supervised by cantor Carl Erstein. Chorus and orchestra were conducted by Henry Russell, and the program was directed by Andrew C. Love. Free Time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. The program appears under the auspices of the West Coast branch of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you have any comments or inquiries about today's broadcast, please write The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Because of the Passover holiday, The Eternal Light will not be heard next week, but will return at its regular time the following week. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
Oh,
spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our drama today is entitled The Man from Omaha and was written by Arnold Pearl and A.S. Guinness. Arnold Moss is the narrator, and featured as Henry Monsky is Roger DeKoven.
Airport on a Thursday afternoon not so long ago, a great silver bird of a plane ended its flight across the ocean, and the last passenger to step out was a rumpled little man clutching a cardboard suitcase in one hand and a map of New York in the other. To the first attendant he saw, he pointed to the map and asked,
Brooklyn?
Well, here's where you are, buddy. Queens. You see?
Queens.
So you take the train to Manhattan.
Manhattan? 99 Brooklyn.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You take the train to Manhattan.
99 Brooklyn.
So that's what I'm telling you.
And if I take over, I think I can help.
The man who spoke was a tall man with a calm face, sad eyes, and a big, friendly smile. The attendant, being a man with a large family and a small income, had other worries and was glad to be out of it.
Shalom, brother. Welcome to our land.
Shalom, shalom. What is with your land? For 6 years I have fled from one corner of the world to the other, and back again. And in all this time of necessity, I have become an expert with maps. Tell me a land, and I will tell you how many borders it has which a man can cross at night. But Brooklyn?
What is so forbidding about our Brooklyn?
I'm standing in Queens. Beside me, on the map, lies Brooklyn. Now, then why must I go first to Manhattan? Do I look like the father of fools?
You're right. The attendant was right. But to go directly to Brooklyn as on the map would cost you 3 train fares, whereas to go by way of Manhattan, it's only 1 fare.
Oh.
Unfortunately, it's one of America's unsolved problems.
So I'm still an old fool, even in a new land. Tell me, do you have a little time?
Yes, a little. The plane to Omaha doesn't leave for a while.
So the tall man and the rumpled little one sat in the waiting room and talked of this and that, and especially of Jewish life. And when the plane to Omaha was announced, the man with the map at first looked sad. And then suddenly his face lit up.
Listen, my friend, I have made a decision.
A decision concerning what?
Concerning Brooklyn and Omaha. I'm going with you.
Well, you'd be more than welcome, but you came all the way with Brooklyn as yours.
Please. I am a man of decisions. In Brooklyn, what have I got? A townsman I haven't seen in 30 years, so I will write to him. But with you, I have only spent 20 minutes with you. But even if there is only one man like you in all of Omaha, it is still a city worth settling in.
You may well ask who was this tall man with a calm face that he could have such an effect on people. He was a friend of mine. Henry Monsky was a very close friend. It's only right, don't you think, that today his very close friends should think of him? You see, Henry Monsky passed away a year ago today. want to know what kind of man he was? A man. No more, no less. A man who grew up in Omaha and fished in the Missouri River, who read Mark Twain and Maimonides, and learned at one and the same time that all men are created equal and Hine Matov Umanaim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity. The year was a memorable one. 1905, Kishinev, a lesson in how to conduct a pogrom. And when news reached the frontier town of Omaha, Reb Abraham, elder of the synagogue, called his 15-year-old son Henry to him. Together they made their way to the other side of town, to the home of the most influential Jew in Omaha. Henry waited outside for 10 minutes, a half hour, an hour. Then he saw his father come out. The boy walked alongside Reb Abraham, waiting for him to speak.
I stretched out my right hand to him. In Kishinev, I said, the trees cry and the winds weep for our brothers. And he said he wasn't made of stone, and in all his nightmares he saw Kishinev. And I answered him, I saw Kishinev in my waking hours as well.
Father...
Yes?
Father, what was it you wanted from him?
Not money, my son, not his influence in high places. These I know he gives. He offered to sign an even larger check. I said, no, that's only charity. There's more, there's much more we must do. I offered him my hand. I said, we must unite, we must work together to build the kind of world where these things will not happen.
And he rejected your hand?
He smiled, he shrugged, he thought I was a fool. He did not say it, but I know. He said, I've given money, what more can I do? Nothing more.
But you are right. Why is it so hard for people to see, not only Jews, but everyone? Everyone should work together and stop this horrible thing like Kishinev.
Not with anger, my son.
I'm sorry, Father. But when will people see?
I'm afraid, my son, only when the world has experienced a Kishinev 1,000 times more terrible.
And that evening, as Reb Abraham sat watching his wife clear the kitchen table...
Betsy?
Yes, Avram.
Henry, he went out?
With friends.
Betsy, today I heard our son answer a man 3 times his age. 3 times his age.
And who?
Myself.
Haven't you learned yet, husband mine, that in this land age is considered an affliction and not a mantle of wisdom? Why should it surprise you, then, that our son should speak boldly to an older man?
Because, my impatient wife, what I want to tell you is not that he spoke up, but rather that my son, the rabbi-to-be, spoke with great wisdom.
And why should it surprise you, Avram, that my son, the lawyer-to-be, should speak with great wisdom?
And when, a few years later, Reb Abraham's wife proved to be right, and Henry chose the law instead of a pulpit, his father felt a bit sad. But on a certain day in 1912, when Henry Monsky stood before his graduating class, Reb Abraham looked at his wife and smiled tearfully. For here in America, their son has chosen for his valedictory text the Hebrew words,
Hine Matov Umanaim Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. How good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
The twig was bent, and so the tree grew.
Sit down, please.
Oh, thank you.
You both look as if you've traveled far. Oh, we have, very far.
There are 3 of us.
3?
Sarah is playing in your front yard. It's such a long time since she touched grass.
A new kind of child, Sarah. In her 8 years, she has known wagons, trains, boats, but no home. Where do you come from? A village near Kharkov. We left today the pogrom stuck our village.
We hope in California. really, as they say, the sun?
I've never been there myself. I hear it has a climate such as they have in Palestine.
Oh. Your father, Rat Abraham, does not know us. But we heard from others that he sometimes helps people, strangers even like us.
Sarah, we would not have gotten off the train, but Sarah is still a bit weak. We hoped a few days' rest, and I could help around the house meanwhile.
Your father...
My father passed away 6 months ago.
The good. Always the good.
Oh, had we known.
This is my father's house. I'm his son. Please stay.
When a man and an idea become one, the result is more than the sum of the two. The result sometimes is inspiration. Others saw it, too, in Henry Monsky.
Mr. Monsky, they're here.
They? The bishop called to say he was coming over. I didn't know.
There's another priest with him. Mr. Monsky.
What is it, Esther? Something on your mind?
You won't forget about this afternoon, will you?
This afternoon? What?
Now, what would you do without me?
I know, Esther. They'd never find me under untyped law briefs, unanswered correspondence.
And unstrung clients, if you don't mind my saying so. This afternoon you promised to see that man from the railroad. A very sizable account, and I have a suspicion the client's growing restless at not being able to see you.
I promise, Esther. I want you to do me a favor and send in the bishop and his friend.
Kindly, Esther shook her head over the impractical ways of her brilliant employer and went out to fetch his friend, the bishop.
Congratulations, Henry. I saw the news in the papers. You've gone far, Henry.
I chose a long road, Bishop.
It's a road that gets a bit lonesome, son. I brought you someone traveling your way. This is my good friend, Father Flanagan. He has an idea, Henry. A haven for boys. A new approach to juvenile delinquency. A place he'd like to call Boys Town.
And for 2 hours they talked, the bishop, Father Flanagan, and my friend Henry Monsky, of boys and the social evils which make them bad, and of a dream to be known as Boys Town. And then...
What's the point of just sitting here? Father Flanagan has the site for Boys Town all picked out. Why don't we drive out there and spend the afternoon? How about it, Henry?
Well, of course, there's no time to be lost, but you'll have to do me a favor, Bishop.
Certainly. What can I do?
I'll meet you downstairs. I'll have to sneak out the back way. Little matter between me and my secretary.
Is there any difference between an uprooted family from across the ocean or a group of uprooted boys in their own land? To my friend, there was none. And so he gave himself to this task of helping to bring to life Boys Town. But the road he had chosen was long. And on top of it all, Esther was right. There were times when Henry was, well, hard to manage.
There's no question, Mr. Monsky, but that your services to our railroad have been excellent. Very excellent.
Well, yours is an honest railroad.
And do this job for us. It's just another unfair tax bill. All we ask is that you speak out against the bill.
A slight correction, Mr. Reynolds. The tax bill is not unfair. It's to raise additional funds for the state school system. Naturally, the roads are expected to pay their share.
Remember, Mr. Monsky, Omaha is a relatively small city, and ours is a big account. I'm not pressing you for an answer now. We'll expect to hear from you in 2 days.
Why wait? As of now, I am the unofficial lobbyist for the bill.
Us a nation, Mr. Monsky. What is it you want for yourself?
You're his wife, Dave. I wish you could talk to him.
What's it all about?
If he wants to act mysterious, let him. In these days, it's the privilege of any man who has spent a week in Washington to look mysterious.
Oh, all right, both of you. But I warn you, what I have to say is no joking matter. I have never been more serious in my life.
If this were a courtroom, Sig, that phrase would reveal you as a very guilty man. What have you done?
Daisy, I've known you since you were a young girl, and now you're married to Henry. He's always been too busy with community activities to build up his personal career.
He's been talking things over with your secretary, Henry, with Esther.
What's more, Henry hasn't even begun to use his amazing legal ability in the way that he should.
Now I'm sure of it.
All right, laugh. But I'll tell you this. I, who am financially more secure than Henry ever will be, would feel that I could not afford the sacrifice that he is now being asked to make.
Sig, come to the point. What's this about?
Henry, they want you to become national president of B'nai B'rith. All right. You never listen to me anyway. I'll make the nominating speech.
When they accepted him unanimously, he was too overcome for words, and his wife led him from the meeting place, and she brought him the strength and composure she was always able to give him. And when he returned dry-eyed, he said, among other things,
We must build with vision, but we must build upon realities. If we build upon ideals alone, oblivious of reality, we shall find in the end that we've built upon quicksand. And the reality of today is that we are divided in the face of a Kishinev 1,000 times more terrible.
The rabbis once said, a man who is going nowhere is never challenged. My friend Mr. Monsky was soon being challenged 100 times a day.
We've doubled our membership in 1 year. Mr. Monsky, aren't we growing a little too fast? I'm worried.
So am I. We're not growing fast enough.
Or else?
Mr. Monsky, my organization and yours are cooperating in a number of projects, as you know. And, naturally, my membership is curious about you personally.
Naturally.
Mr. Monsky, are you Orthodox, conservative, or Reformed?
All, madam, for I am a Jew.
And on still another occasion.
This is a key matter, Mr. Monsky. Before we can even sit down at the same table, you must state your position on Palestine.
It has already been stated for me.
Really? By whom?
By a boy in a hospital bed. His nurse wrote the letter for him because now he has no hands. We didn't die in the forests when we fought against the Germans, he writes. We will find a way. That way is to Palestine.
Many thousands joined, men and women, young women, even children. And all this time, the fireplace in Omaha was far away. And Daisy had to be satisfied with telephone calls like this one.
Hello? Hello? Henry, is that you?
Oh, Daisy, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, dear, yes. Oh, where are you?
In the White House.
In the White House? Henry.
I had lunch with Mrs. Roosevelt.
Oh, how wonderful. What did she serve?
Huh?
Oh, I'm dying to know, dear. What did she serve?
Well, how should I know, Daisy?
Well, you ate it, didn't you?
Well, we talked.
But you said it was luncheon.
Well, then I must have eaten.
And you don't remember what?
Of course I remember. I remember every word she said.
Now it was the winter of 1942. And Kishinev had been repeated 1,000 times and then 1,000 times again. And still there was no end to the scourge. My friend, Mr. Monsky, knew that now must be the time. And when he told Daisy, she grew worried for the first time for him, for her husband.
The call to the Unity Conference has gone out.
To 62 Jewish organizations, and in our letter we minced no words, not in these days.
Of course, the two major factions will look to you as intermediary. You'll be between the devil and the deep blue sea, Henry.
I can't imagine, dear, how you can compare either of those groups to the tranquility of the deep blue sea. Say, rather, I'll be ground between two millstones.
Although with Daisy he'd spoken lightly of his own burden, he could not hide his doubts from himself as he stood there on the platform that fateful day. American-Jewish conference was now officially opened. His tired heart beat faster as the various blocks, each a separate idea and a separate program, announced their presence. Now they waited for him to speak. The opening words, those would be important. The very first words.
Ine matov umanaim. Shevet achim gam yachad.
How good, how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Was it any better tonight, Henry?
Oh, somewhat, Daisy, somewhat, but it seems ever more difficult.
Henry, you're not a youngster. 3 a.m. tonight, 2 a.m. last night, and the night before it was...
Ine matov manoim shevet achim gam yachad. They translate it the way Rabbi Gottheil once did. How good and how pleasant it is if we can get the brethren merely to sit together. That's not enough. Sitting together is not enough. We must think and feel together.
Perhaps, Henry, yours is a stronger faith. Sometimes I look at what's happening to our people through the world. I look at the way you're killing yourself, and I'm afraid. Sometimes I'm afraid the lights are going out for us.
No, Daisy, our people have no special lights illuminating their way. The sun, the moon, the stars we share with the world. If the lights go out for us, it is because the lights are going out the world over.
He fought for his own vision of life. He led a national campaign against juvenile delinquency. And against delinquency of government, he fought as consultant to the United States delegation at San Francisco. And then a year ago today in a New York hotel, he was conducting a meeting of the conference's interim committee when...
Louis, please take chair. I feel weak, sir.
They took him upstairs. He asked for his wife. And when she arrived...
Where is he?
Right in there, Mrs. Monsky.
Henry.
Madam, can you take shorthand? I asked for a secretary. I have a report to dictate. It's broadcast tonight.
I'm sorry, Mr. Monsky. I'm not so good at dictation, but may I hold your hand?
You know what happened? I thought of all the things I had to do, and I got dizzy. Silly, what?
Henry. Henry.
The doctor said...
His heart actually ruptured, Mrs. Monsky.
It broke for his people, Doctor.
And that's the story of my very close friend. One more word. A historian of dates and places and names would say that because I'd never really met Henry Monsky personally, I shouldn't call him a close friend. Well, that isn't quite right either. He was a close friend. After all, Henry Monsky was Henry Monsky. And I, like him, a man, no more, no less. What would a historian know about such friendships?
And now we present Mr. Frank Goldman, president of B'nai B'rith. Mr. Goldman.
The greatness of our country rests upon the idealism and the contributions of the various groups who make up its population and of their leaders. Henry Monsky, who passed on a year ago today, had then served for 9 years as president of B'nai B'rith, the world's oldest and largest Jewish service organization. His greatness lay in the possession to a marked degree of the finer qualities of mind and heart. These permitted him no narrow horizon, but rather prompted him to lay aside his own comfort and to devote himself to the welfare and well-being of people everywhere. He was an American citizen of the first order. His whole life was an expression of the finest ideals of the double heritage which was his, Judaism and Americanism. As a little boy in Omaha, he constantly observed his mother and father welcome into their Orthodox Jewish home and help on their way to the far west poor, ragged, and often weeping strangers, the European displaced of their time. Through his parents' approach to this problem, he learned in a most natural way that this was not charity, but rather human solidarity, and it was a lesson he never forgot. As he grew to manhood, he was always animated in everything he did by this sense of the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. It was that which inspired him to give so much of himself to the general social causes, as well as to B'nai B'rith, the development of Palestine as a Jewish homeland, and other movements in behalf of his people. It was that, too, basically, which moved him to found the American Jewish Conference, to cope with the war and post-war emergency facing the Jewish people overseas and in Palestine. He believed in common action, in unity for the accomplishment of a worthy purpose, but he was not beguiled by the use of the word unity or any other catchphrase to mistake form for substance or to see unity where there was only pretense. We who have survived him have dedicated ourselves to emulating his spirit, his devotion, his courage, and his passion for working toward a better world for all mankind. Truly can it be said on this first anniversary of Henry Monsky's passing, his memory is for a blessing.
Thank you, Mr. Frank Goldman. Our Eternal Light drama today, entitled The Man from Omaha, was written by Arnold Pearl and A.S. Guinness. This script was based upon the recently published book, Henry Monsky, The Man and His Work, by Mrs. Henry Monsky and Maurice Biskaya. The original music was composed by Morris Pomorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. Arnold Moss was the narrator. Featured as Henry Monsky was Roger de Koven. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Pack.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's Eternal Light dramatization by Irv Tunick, The Things I Saw, is based on the first-hand report of Chester Bowles, International Chairman of the United Nations Appeal for Children. Featured as Mr. Bowles is John McGovern, and Natalie Corr as Mrs. Bowles.
Not pleasant, is it? This is the cry of a hungry child.
Kansas now, the wheat is barely awake. Its stubby little fingers still rub the sleepiness of winter from its eyes. And in Minnesota, the dairy herds are out in pasture, udders thick and bulging. In Texas, white-faced steers are plodding northward to grow fat on Iowa corn. This is food being fashioned, calories in the making. These are fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, soon to stain your baby's bib.
Memorandum from Edward Harker to William Brooks, Director of News and Special Events, National Broadcasting Company, New York City. This morning I recorded the voice of Tessel Fakler, a sick little Jewish child I found in a displaced persons camp near Berlin. Tessel is 4 years old. She weighs 27 pounds. Doctors tell me she has the physical development of a child of 2. Tessel's family fled from Poland before the Nazi invasion in 1939. They went into Russia, and there into Siberia. Her father died in Siberia, and at war's end, she and her mother drifted westward to the displaced persons camp, where the International Refugee Organization is giving what it can to help. Tessel's undersized body has withstood pneumonia, whooping cough, measles, and heart disease. She is still seriously tubercular, lacking the resistance that comes from good food. Her cry was not staged. She was hungry, so she cried.
When they asked me, I said yes. It was something I wanted to do, something that needed doing. So I said yes. I have 5 children of my own, but even if I had none, my answer still would have been yes. I remember the first time I heard the idea. I was working privately with Arki Ording, Norwegian delegate to the United Nations. It was late, and we were tired, and Mrs. Bowles brought in some coffee and sandwiches.
7th inning stretch. Come on now, put those papers away and relax. Mr. Ording, you sit here. Chester, here.
Thank you. This looks delicious.
Hope it is.
In Norway, this is called matbete.
Matbete?
Snack. The most welcome word in our language.
Well, tell Mrs. Bowles about your idea, Mr. Ording.
Oh, an idea is like a little boy. You never know if it's going to grow up good or bad.
This is a good one, I think.
Let me hear.
The other day, in a committee meeting of the United Nations on the food problem, I thought of this. It was because so much time was being spent in debate, in hair-splitting, in winding and unwinding red tape. Hours, days, weeks, months slipping by. Hungry children waiting to be fed. Waiting for diplomats and statesmen and international representatives
to agree on something everyone was already agreed upon, that the hungry children of the world must be fed.
230 million children.
And then I remembered. In southern Norway, after the war, the people who had suffered less than those in the north, those people did this. They volunteered 1 day's pay, work, or produce to help their fellow countrymen get on their feet. A simple idea, isn't it?
A very wonderful idea.
Well, now, suppose we should take this plan and extend it all the world. Ask every person to give 1 day's pay, work, or produce to feed the hungry children of the world. Would it work?
On a voluntary basis?
Completely.
What about the people who can't afford to give?
Oh, everyone can afford to give. If not money, then time. Something. Anything. It must not be another charity. Another case of someone giving and someone getting. This must be done in the spirit of mutual self-help. A case of all men sharing the burden of a child's hunger.
It will work.
You think so?
I know it. The conscience of mankind will make it work.
So as I said, when the plan was finally agreed upon by the United Nations, and when the name United Nations Appeal for Children was given it, when Secretary General Tigbe asked me to become international chairman, I said yes. On January 2nd, 1948, Mrs. Bowles and myself left for a swift survey trip through the nations of Europe. What follows is my report. It's 2 o'clock Sunday morning, French time. We're approaching Paris. In the last 20 hours, this plane has been a world by itself. A little world in which we can do nothing but sit and read and think. We've been studying reports on the needs of children in every corner of the earth. These needs are so staggering that we find it difficult to take them in. The best estimates we have, cold, impersonal reports, state that 1 child in every 2 alive today is starving. A huge percentage of them will never grow up. We approach our task in Europe with humility. Industrial town of Colombes.
Entre. Bonjour, Pierre. Peut-on entrer?
Mais oui, entrez, entrez.
Pierre, je vous présente Monsieur et Madame Bowles, qui viennent d'Amérique.
Ah, Mr. Bowles, Mrs. Bowles. I speak good English, isn't it?
I hope we're not intruding.
No. Madame will excuse, I cannot stand. Both legs, landmine.
Oh.
Maybe I get, how do you call it, des jambes artificielles.
Artificial legs.
Oui, artificial legs, but how you get them? Must stand on line at the bureau. No legs. Cannot stand.
Et les enfants? Where are the children, Pierre?
Where you think? In school.
Oh.
One thing I make sure. Legs or no legs, the kids go to school. Hey, you hear that soon they finish new school? With desks, maybe.
How many children do you have?
3.
All in school?
Oh, oui.
Your wife?
Catherine works in, how do you call that? Une raffinerie de pétrole.
Oil refinery.
Ah, oui, oil refinery. She makes 2,000 francs each week.
About $10.
We live. Sometimes kids fall asleep during lessons. Énergie.
Énergie.
Ils n'ont jamais assez à manger. Ils ne peuvent pas fixer leur attention sur leurs devoirs. Ils essaient, mais comment peut-on s'occuper de livres lorsqu'on a le ventre creux?
They never get enough to eat, so they cannot concentrate. They try hard, but how can one think of books with an empty stomach?
What is it? Stomach?
Belly.
Ah, that word I know. Belly. All kids in Europe have same trouble. Belly trouble. Nothing inside. All the time, nothing but hungry. A teacher says French Revolution fought for liberty, equality, fraternity. The kids think tonight maybe we have bread, maybe even piece of horse meat. Studies are too hard for hungry kids. We must feed the kids.
That's why we're here. We want to see the truth so that we can make the necessary plans to feed the children.
Good. That's good. But plans? Why plans? Kids need food. Give them food. Why does one need plans? One needs bread. Listen, we old ones had plans, no? Every country its own plan. Lots of plans, each different. Nobody has same plan, so we fight the war. Listen, I tell you best plan. Get food, put it on plate, call in the kids. Forget the old ones like me. But where is the world without kids, hein? Si nous mourons de faim, nous le méritons. C'est de notre faute. Mais les enfants sont innocents.
Pierre says if we starve, we deserve to starve. We earn starvation. But the children are innocent.
Feed the kids, Monsieur Boaz. We can starve. But feed the kids.
Italy lies ahead. Another night and we'll be in Rome. A collection of shacks on the outskirts of Rome.
When it rains, and it rains plenty in this little valley, these people are forced to leave their shacks and run for the hills.
Why do they stay here?
Two reasons. One, because they have nowhere else to go. The second is up there, on top of the hill.
That house being built?
Mm-hmm. An apartment house, subsidized by the government. Take a look at that, huh? In this day and age, it's being built by hand. Not a bulldozer, not a modern tool near the place. But it's going up. Now, these people are waiting to move in.
When?
It's slow building that way, but they wait. They watch it go up brick by brick.
How much will the apartments rent for?
About 400 lire a month.
Oh, a little under $1.
Mm-hmm. Just about what a pack of cigarettes sell for on the black market. Now, over here...
Bernie, please, Bernie. Federico, vieni, via. Finisci di mentare. Non devi chiedere i soldi.
Faccia le mie, scusi, per il mio bambino.
She says she's sorry her kids beg pennies.
Ask her how many children she has.
Quanti bambini ha, signora?
3.
3.
Do the children get enough to eat?
I vostri bimbi ricevono abbastanza da mangiare?
Mai. Non hanno mangiato nulla oggi. Neppure una cosa per tutta la giornata.
They haven't eaten all day, another thing.
Non hanno visto latte da 3 anni.
They haven't seen milk in 3 years.
But how do they live?
And we get a little help. The United Nations Children's Fund supplies about 300 calories of food a day, and the government matches it.
600 calories? Why, an average kid in America gets 3,500 calories a day.
Sometimes they get a little more than 600. They scrounge around the streets of Rome, begging pennies, wiping stuff off the food stamps.
Ask her if she thinks things will be better when they move into the new house.
Saresti più felice nella nuova casa?
Non posso trasferirmi nella nuova casa. La prigione sarà 400 lire al mese e la mia pensione di vedova è solo 600.
She says she's not going into the new house. The rent will be 400 lire, and her widow's pension is only 300 lire.
Then why does she stay here?
Perché vivete qua?
I bimbi non sanno che non possiamo permetterci la nuova casa. Credono che ci trasferiremo con tutti gli altri. Non posso dire che ciò non è vero. I bimbi non possono vivere senza una speranza. Sperano di vivere nella casa. Non posso distruggere I loro sogni.
The children don't know she cannot afford the new house. They think they will move in with all the others. She cannot tell them the truth. She says that children cannot live without something to hope for. The kids want to live in the new house. She says she cannot take away their dreams.
In Italy, we also met Vittorio Corrado. Vittorio was 10. He was playing the piano when we came into the room.
Hai delle visite oggi? Il signore e la signora Bowles vengono dall'America.
Sono felice di fare la vostra conoscenza.
He says he's glad to meet you.
Tell him I think he plays the piano magnificently.
La signora Bowles ama il tuo modo di suonare il pianoforte.
Grazie. Vi prego di spiegarle che la ragione perché sto ancora seduto qua è perché non posso vedere. Sono cieco.
He says to explain to you that the reason he is still sitting at the piano is because he's blind.
Blind?
I tedeschi mi hanno sparato una pallottola nella testa ed i dottori dicono che ha tagliato il nervo ottico, facendomi cieco per sempre.
The Germans shot him in the head. The doctor said it cut his optic nerve and made him blind forever.
On the train traveling from Rome, I was handed 2 papers. One was an account of life in Vienna in a children's clinic in that occupied city. Portions of that letter live with me even now, day and night.
Hunger is running. You are sitting at your desk with a little patient, and suddenly you find you cannot keep your attention on what the child's mother is saying. Or you're standing up, and suddenly you have to sit down. And being hungry, you do things you never thought you would do. You send your children out to trade on the black market. You learn, too, not to ask questions when they bring food home. You eat it, and while you're doing so, you hope no one will come in with whom it ought to be shared. It is each for himself and his own. Death takes whole families, or parts of families, leaving only orphans. The younger ones are cared for in institutions. The older ones look after themselves. And juvenile delinquency, in their case, is just a way of saying boys and girls are hungry. They take as they can. They oppose with violence anyone who tries to stop them. Young as they are, they come to terms easily, as hungry people everywhere come to terms. Even their own mothers must sometimes come to terms. You call that bad? Listen. Who is to say who is good and who is bad?
in times like these.
We went our way through Europe, Prague, Budapest, carefully compiling our statistics. When you look at big figures like these, and try to evaluate them objectively, the task is terribly hard. You find that 230 million infants and children are hungry in the world today. But that's not what you think. You think of a baby with swollen belly and no flesh at all. You don't think of the sum, but of the fraction of each 230 millionth of the total. Each of your precious statistics is a kid starving. We'd seen many pictures of the ruins of Warsaw, but we were completely unprepared for the shock of seeing it all for ourselves. 600,000 people exist in this desert of bricks and mortar. That they do live and keep their children alive is perhaps the strongest testimonial we've seen so far to human courage. In Warsaw, we visited a health center, a building much better than usual. It had a roof.
This is the playroom. We've managed to find crayons and even a little paper for the children to draw on. While I doubt if we have any budding Rembrandt, I think some of the work is very good. The best examples are on the wall.
Doctor?
Yes, Mrs. Boaz?
Almost all of the pictures are of war scenes. Guns, tanks, planes.
Yes, they all have lived with the horror of war and are obsessed by it.
Why don't you try to have them paint happier scenes?
We do try, but it must be done gradually. You can't force a thing like that because then you would only be suppressing memories. Memories that would emerge again after the child has grown up. That would be the surest way to encourage war again. It's better to have guns discharged on paper rather than on people. In time, they'll draw their things. Wheat fields, maybe, or even cows. We plan to have an X-ray machine in there, a pharmacy in this room.
Are you getting medical supplies?
A little. We need so much more. In Poland, it is said in all of Poland, more than 1 million people have tuberculosis. The death rate of babies is unbelievable. 206 out of every 1,000.
Why is that woman crying, doctor?
I don't know. Co się stało? Czy mogę pani pomóc?
Dziecko. Zabrali dziecko.
She says someone took her baby. Dlaczego zabrali?
Bo chore.
The baby is sick. Co mu jest?
Powiada, że gruźlica.
Tuberculosis. If the child was taken from her, it must be a hopeless case. We keep them here to prevent further spread of the germ.
How old was the child?
Ile ma dziecko lat?
Nie wiem.
She doesn't know.
To nie jest moje dziecko.
Oh, it wasn't her child.
Płakała. Znalazła mnie po bitwie.
She found him crying after the battle.
Może ma 3 albo 4 lata.
Maybe he's 3 or 4.
Teraz zgubiłam go.
Now she lost him.
Ja jego znalazłam i zgubiłam.
She found him and now she has lost him.
Znalazła mnie. Ono jest moje. Oddajcie mi dziecko. Na litość boską. Panie doktorze, oddajcie mi moje dziecko.
She found a baby. It's her baby. She wants him back. She wants her baby back.
We left Europe, Mrs. Bowles and I, impressed with many things. Uppermost is the incredible stupidity of wars. Yet we know people who talk glibly of a third World War. One thing at least we know. The people of all these countries who've known war intimately long desperately for peace for themselves and their children. Not only desperately, but with determination. They mean to have it. They're going to have their peace. If the world of tomorrow is two worlds, it will be because half of that world, half of the children of today, will have grown up hungry, embittered, and desperate. We heard this voice as we traveled. It was with us. Even now, it's with us. Children hungry, in rags, scratching in the rubble piles for rotten potatoes. Children alone. Our children. The world's children. Now I can say, as Job said, out of my flesh I saw these things.
Today's Eternal Light dramatization by Irv Tunick, The Things I Saw, was based on the first-hand report of Chester Bowles, International Chairman of the United Nations Appeal for Children. The United Nations Appeal for Children is conducted in the United States under the title Crusade for Children, conducted by American Overseas Aid. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. John McGovern was featured as Mr. Bowles, and Natalie Corr was Mrs. Bowles. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Tapp. We would like to express our appreciation to the Ohio State Institute for Education by Radio for awarding the Eternal Light first place in religious broadcasting for the third consecutive year. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its independent affiliated stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America, who today honors the creation of the Jewish state, Israel, by presenting a rebroadcast of The River Jordan, an original drama by Irv Tunick, with material drawn from the book entitled The River Jordan by Dr. Nelson Glick, President of Hebrew Union College. Alexander Scurby is featured as the narrator.
is with rivers as it is with people. The greatest are not always the most agreeable, nor the best to live with. Statistics are easy. The Jordan runs 100 miles from head to toe, and meanders once again that distance. Posed against the Mississippi, it is only a millstream. Against the Amazon, it is only a rill. But in the blaze and glint of history, the Jordan rolls and floods, rinsing the land of Zion. Suckled by the snows of Hermon, and a tale is told well worth repeating. After the Lord had given the holy law to Israel from Mount Sinai, all the other mountains crinkled their cheeks in anger. Indignant, snubbed, their spokesman pleaded,
"Why did you give the holy law from Mount Sinai and not from other mountains?"
It was a fair question, demanding an unprejudiced answer. So the Lord commanded the mountains to set themselves in orderly rows so that he could hear each one's plaint in order. With much tumbling and rumbling and a good bit of grumbling, the mountains came to order. Moreh, Ebal, Ephraim, Gerizim, Nebo, each in turn complaining. Last of all, a small lowly hill approached the throne. The Lord asked, "What is thy name?"
"My name is Hermon. Why did you not give the Torah for me? At the borders of the Holy Land am I. From my feet flow the fountains of Jordan, which is so dear to you. Why was the Torah not given for me?"
And the Lord smiled, and summer was everywhere. And then he said, "Verily it would have been fitting that the holy law should be given from you. But since it was not, I give you another gift. I shall make you loftier than all the mountains of the land, and upon your highest portions shall eternal snow rest, and all the mountains shall envy you." And this is as it is. Hermon stands above the floor of Zion, like a food-laden table on Shabbat, covered with a spotless cloth of eternal snow, with sunbeams for candelabra and cool springs for wine. Four streams are suckled by Hermon. Legend tells us these streams quarreled just as the mountains quarreled. How human is nature! And called to the Lord of the universe to judge between them. The Lord of the universe descended to earth and pondered the matter, for the arguments were well advanced. and each stream had advocated its claim with wisdom. At length the Lord of the universe rose from the hill and counseled, "Rivers, you are dear to me, all four. Hearken to my counsel. Unite, all four, and together ye will indeed be the most important river in the world." And this was done, and the rivers clasped each other so firmly that none could tell their streams apart. And so was born the Jordan. miles from the joining of the streams, the young Jordan empties into Lake Poulet. What have we here? Strange animals have come to Hule. Hungry anthropoids that gulp the clay and loam with skinny necks and iron bellies. Genus, Milwaukee. Dig shovels to you. For here at Hule, a transformation has begun. Pioneers are mining a swamp, bringing out land. Here in miniature is the long, sad song of Zion. Once brilliantly fertile, a fecund valley, thickly populated, prosperous. Then centuries of overcultivation, wringing the land dry, squeezing out crops until the land bawled out in agony and gave up the ghost. Neglected, scorned, swampland and marshes boiling with malaria, the land of Hule lay for centuries, untouched, unwanted. But now it is wanted. And now the magic touch of modern engineering is scraping off the scum of centuries. For land. For men who want land. For people who have faith in land. They are mining at Hule. Mining a swamp for land.
Sing and dance, sing, you and I hand in hand. Sing and dance, sing, from the hill to Jordan line.
Beyond Hule, the Jordan sinks below sea level. Quite softly, as though on tiptoe, it enters Galilee, the fabulous sea of Kinneret. Studding its shores like a necklace of emeralds are kibbutzim, Jewish communal villages, outposts of faith in the wilderness. Here is Daganya, the first of all and still one of the greatest. Daganya smelling sweet of new-cut hay, lush with the wonderful green of young wheat and barley. Daganya, where now the haylofts are lookout posts, and the fences are barbed wire. This is not new. This has been before. The death-spitting night, and the farming with one hand guiding a mule and another patting a gun. And this has been before. 10 men and 2 women came to the Jordan 27 years ago. They came with deep dreams and flowing hope and little else. For shelter, a mud-brick hut that sucked in the rain and hoarded the heat. They shared danger and profit alike. Moshe Barsky, built to celebrate his 19th birthday, was one of these pioneers. Everybody loved Moshe. He was so warm to be with, so good to know. Moshe loved mules,
Sounds funny, I know, but Moshe loved mules, that's that. And Moshe always said,
in case it should happen, I don't say it will, but in case sometimes I'm out alone plowing with my mule and robbers come up, they start shooting at me, what do? First thing, before even I shoot back, I unhitch the mule and send him home. It's what a man should do. You can always get another man, but a mule, that costs money.
The others smiled as they listened. Joseph Bussell, with his everlasting pipe that was never lit, Aaron Gordon, who shoveled manure and wrote philosophy with equal talent, Yitzchak Ben Yaakov, plowman and pilot, they smiled at Moshe with tolerance and wise nods. Then one night, Moshe rode off to the village to fetch a doctor. Moshe always volunteered. It had to be Moshe. Midnight, and the watchman called.
Up! Get up! Everybody up! Everybody quickly, get up! Up! What is it?
What's the matter?
Moshe's mule. It's come back. And alone.
They found him on the road between Daganya and Milchania, bleeding and clubbed.
The mule.
It came back.
Good. See, you can always get another man, but a mule. A mule.
So now there was a little mound of new torn earth at Daganya, hot and baked dull brown. And a letter with sad news went to a village in Russia. In time an answer came. Moshe's father wrote,
Dear friends of Daganya, I have received your precious letter. I found there true words that had welled up from loving and faithful hearts bound together by an eternal bond. The unexpected has befallen us. Great as is the disaster that has come upon us, you will not let your spirits fail you. On the contrary, may the memory of my son inspire you with still greater strength and courage to continue your labor until you attain the great ideal for which my son gave his life, the dream of Eretz Yisrael. It is not only to thank you for your sympathy with my grief that I write you, but also to send you words of comfort. For is not your grief my own? Come, therefore. Let us hope together that the blood of our precious victim, of my son and your comrade, Moshe, will be accepted, and that he may be the last sacrifice upon the altar of our exalted ideal.
Months later, on the dust-deep road that wound down from Tiberias, a small, thin figure walked swiftly. His pants were patched with the dirt of travel, and his eyes were tired. When he came to the watchman, he stopped and looked at the new-cut fields around him.
Is this the Ganya?
Yes. Who are you?
My name is Barsky.
Barsky?
Solomon Barsky. I'm Moshe's younger brother. My father sent me here to take his place.
Daganya, Kinneret, Shar Hagolan, Afikim. Tick off the names with reverence. These are the desert-born, the man-made. These are the arms extended, the welcome called. Gesher, Maoz, Ashdod Yaakov, green flame in the desert. Come, they say, come and see. What is done will be done again. There is room by the Jordan. There is wheat. Below Galilee, the Jordan digs deeper into the soil. No longer silver, its sheen is gone now, and the stream is burnt brown and churning like apple butter in the making. Whirlpools, rapids, water like emery scraping its shores, dragging rich topsoil into its turbulence. 6 miles below Dagana, the Jordan meets the Yarmouk, and power. How long is the road from blind mules to kilocycles? How far the journey from Genesis to generators? Here it is, all nicely put together, a diorama of man's healthy dreams. The horn of the shepherd still sounds from the hilltops, but its counterpoint is the whine of high-tension lines of electricity scudding across wires to clean barns and nurseries and quiet rooms where scholars read. Fold down a corner of your memory at this point. Mark it well. For here is the promise of Eretz Yisrael. Power will emancipate the land. And there is a dream on foot, a plan. A man by name of Loudermilk came to Zion, and with a hypodermic of sharp facts and cold figures, syringed a dream into the blood of young men. He said,
I envisage a Jordan Valley Authority built along the lines of the TVA. It would have 2 basic purposes: irrigation, power. The sweet water of the upper Jordan would be channeled into irrigation canals that would extend along both sides of the Jordan Valley and the plain of Sharon to the Negev. Over 750,000 acres could be irrigated, reviving earth that has lain arid for centuries, and making it produce 2 or 3 crops a year. The salt waters of the Mediterranean diverted through a 28-mile canal and tunnel starting near Mount Carmel would pour down into the Dead Sea. Nearly 1 billion kilowatt-hours of cheap electric energy would finally be available in the Jordan Valley Authority. There is not a single engineering barrier to this project. It is sensible, feasible, and badly needed. It would be a demonstration of how the eroded lands of the entire Middle East could be restored to fertility.
And so, leaning on tilted drawing boards in Tel Aviv, under fluorescent lights in Jerusalem, the young engineers of Zion are tracing lines, computing stresses and strains, sketching, drafting, dreaming, believing, waiting. Waiting. Now the humor of the river changes. The Jordan grows old now, and its way is wrinkled. This is the Zor, the jungle of the Jordan. A pestilence, a green mire, a thick mucus growth dribbling down the shirt front of Zion. Enough of this place. We move on. On to where? Listen. This is the end now, the Dead Sea, the toenail of the Jordan. But look about you. These hills, are they familiar? Do you see them with the annoyance of having seen them all before, but not knowing when? We have been here before, all of us, for this is the point of decision. Moses led us here. Remember now? Remember? Now the wanderers rested. Their tent flaps licked the sweet breeze of pine-clad Gilead like the tongues of thirsty kittens. 40 years of wandering through the wilderness, and now, as seen from the heights, the promised land was a bare week's journey ahead. Only the valley of the Jordan was between. Ecstasy and the passion of homecoming blazed in many hearts. But there were some who drew away. There were some who dug their fingers into the earth and felt the fertility of the land in their palms. This was a good place. This was a good soil. This was a promise more certain than the promise of the book. And so the leaders of the tribes of Reuben, of Gad, and half of Manasseh came to Moses and pleaded,
Bring us not over the Jordan. Let us build sheepfolds for our flocks here and cities for our children.
And Moses replied,
Shall your brethren go to war, and shall ye sit here? And wherefore do you discourage the heart of the children of Israel from going over into the land which the Lord hath given to them?
This was the point of decision. Here, on these hills, the dream faltered, stumbled, then caught its balance and went on over the Jordan. The Jordan now, as then, is the symbol of the dream of Zion. Born at Dan, ends at Beersheba, living and ending within the geography of Palestine. This is no common river. This, not just another italic on a map, a trade route between there and there. This is the Jordan. Its waters are the fulsome springs of young Judea. This is the frontier of the promise. This is a promise beyond the recall of man, a haven, a refuge, granted by God's will. Come, he cries, come to Zion. Come, all you landless, all you tortured. Come from the bitter burial grounds, the torn cities, the coldness of winter winds. Come to Zion, cross over Jordan, walk in the sun again. Smell the wheat, read your books, bear your children, sing your songs. Come, cross the Jordan.
Now we present a brief talk by Rabbi Albert I. Gordon, Executive Director of United Synagogues of America, speaking from Chicago. Rabbi Gordon.
It is eminently fitting that at this time we should listen to the story of the River Jordan, where in that ancient land of Israel, to whose soil flow the waters of the historic Jordan, there has been created a Jewish state. For the third time in the history of the Jewish people, a Jewish commonwealth has been called into being. An ancient dream of an ancient people has been realized. God's promise has been fulfilled. Somewhere near the beautiful, life-giving waters of the Jordan, the patriarch Abraham must have stood as the divine promise was first uttered. On the shores of that river today, there rise the homes and villages of the new Palestine. From it come the power that turned the wheels of the industries of that old new land. There in Palestine, the Jew has ceased to be a wanderer. Despite the sacrifices he has made or may yet be called upon to make, sacrifices of blood, sweat, and tears, the Jew in Palestine knows that he is at home. It is well that on this day we recognize the fact that God is once again speaking through this people. The right to live once again as a people in its own state has been recognized in our day by the President of the United States. In this historic moment, the Almighty is testing not the Jews of Palestine, but rather the nations of the world.
Sacred pledges once given must not once again become mere scraps of paper, upon which men or nations may trample at will. The Almighty is a God of justice. He is a moral God. Whosoever ignores this basic fact brings about his own destruction. It is on such a historic day that in the city of Chicago there have assembled men and women representing some 500 Jewish synagogues throughout the United States and Canada, who are members of the United Synagogue of America. We have convened in order to take counsel together in how we may best bring the treasures of our heritage into our personal lives, as well as into the life of the community as a nation of which we are an integral part. We believe with our Hebrew sages that the world does indeed rest upon the foundations of truth, of justice, and of peace. That without truth and justice there can be no peace. That is why we of the United Synagogue of America today give thanks unto the Almighty for having preserved us to this day, in which the Jews in Palestine have done God's work by declaring themselves once again at home in a state of their own making. We pray for the peace of all men, even as we pray for the heroic founders and defenders of the Jewish state. By the rivers of Babylon, Israel once wept. Today, by the river Jordan, Israel sings once again a song unto the Lord.
Thank you, Rabbi Gordon. Our Eternal Light drama today, The River Jordan, was written by Irv Tunick with material drawn from the book entitled The River Jordan by Dr. Nelson Glick, president of Hebrew Union College. The music was arranged by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. Featured as narrator was Alexander Scurby. Cantor Robert H. Siegel and Hadassah Kohler were the soloists. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Taft. Free time to present the Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. The program appears under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you have any comments or inquiries about today's broadcast, please write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations. All your body Israel, Omerim Shema Yisrael.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light, a program which comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today, to mark the observance of Memorial Day, we present Sylvia Berger's The Return of Danny Miller, featuring John Sylvester.
There's a song on the lips of the young voyager, and his voice sounding far sets the forest astir. Gladsome and free, little cares he, for there's joy in the heart of the young boy.
They're bringing in Danny Miller from the battlefield. For his relatives and friends, this is how it happened. He was crawling up an embankment at 3:05 in the morning when something hit him hard in the chest and the head. His helmet flew off. He sank to his knees. His hands flew open. He struggled to his feet. Blood gushed from his mouth and nose. They're bringing in Danny Miller from the battlefield.
Lay him down easy, will you, Mac?
Don't let that arm hang down.
They picked up Danny Miller where he fell. They put him on a stretcher. And they carried him to a jeep. And they drove him to a tent with a red cross on its side. And the surgeons did what they could for Danny Miller. Then they put him on a ship and they brought him home again. They brought Danny Miller home again. And the surgeons went over him again. And they saw that 2 of his ribs were smashed, and his collarbone was broken, and that a shell fragment had ripped into Danny's head, right in the back of Danny's head. And they did what they could for Danny Miller.
Clamps. What's the last pressure?
88/50.
Pulse.
Setting out on the 3rd beat.
Retractor.
I told you, you're not getting out of the house in that hat.
What's wrong with this hat? It's a beautiful hat.
It's got grass growing on it.
Oh, it's not grass. Oh, it's a beautiful pattern of wheat and cornflowers copied straight off of Paris original. I paid $8.95 for it. My good hat.
Hey, what's all this stuff hanging down over your face?
Oh, look how you tear it. That's a veil, Danny. Didn't you ever see a veil before in your life?
I don't like it.
Why not?
It hides your face.
Oh, honestly, you're the limit. What kind of girl will your mother think I am, breathing in the first time I'm asked to dinner without a... What you doing?
Just wanted to see what I'd look like with grass growing on my head. I look foolish, too.
Danny Miller, you're the most...
Suction. Pressure?
60/40. It's falling.
How much plasma's he had?
500 cc's.
500 more.
There's a song on the lips of the young voyager, and his voice sounding far sets the forest astir.
Are you all ready, Danny? Bill's coming up the walk now.
Sure, honey, I'm all set. I'm even wearing my Sunday school tie.
Oh, I wish you'd stop thinking this is funny, Danny Miller. Bill's at the age when a man has to talk to him. My mother and I can't. If my father were alive...
I told you, I'll talk to him, honey. Don't get excited. I just don't know what I'm going to say.
Warn him.
Warn him about what?
He's 16, Danny. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
Look, honey, I've always loved you, haven't I? Ever since we met 2 years ago. And I respect you even if you do fall all over your feet.
We're not going to go into my high heels at this time, Danny Miller.
We're not going to go into the subject of your high heels at this time. I was just saying that I love and respect you, and I respect your mother, And I love her, too. Yes, I love her, too.
What's the point? Oh, Danny, you do like to talk.
I think you and your mother are being silly.
Danny Miller, you promised to talk to my brother about women, and you're going to. You're not going to wiggle out now when Mother sent him over especially, making up an errand for him here so he wouldn't suspect.
Hey, is anybody home?
Oh, there he is now, Danny. Don't you dare wiggle out of it. We're in the parlor, Bill. Come on in.
I feel like a fool.
Hi, there you are. Hi, Danny.
Hi, Bill.
How's Mother, Bill?
She's okay, Millie. Here, she sent this.
What is it? Oh, chocolate cookies. I'll go in the kitchen and make some cocoa. You two probably have a lot to talk about.
Why don't you sit down, Bill?
Don't mind if I do. What's this?
What? Oh, candy. I got it from Mildred on her birthday. Have some.
Don't mind if I do. Good.
I'm glad you like it, Bill. Say, Bill. How's school these days?
Okay.
Fine. There must be an awful lot of girls in your classes, Bill. Especially those poetry classes. You know, if I remember rightly, there were an awful lot of girls in my classes, too, when I went to high school.
Mind if I take another piece, Danny?
No. Go ahead, Bill. Here, have this one. This one's bigger.
This one's fine, thanks.
I bet it must be pretty tough sometimes to keep your mind on your schoolwork with a pretty girl sitting right across the aisle from you. You must even feel like asking her out for a date sometimes.
You want this one, Danny? This one's a cream.
No, thanks, Bill. Mildred's the one who eats the creams. I eat the caramels. You know, women are funny, Bill.
Here's the caramel. Catch.
Oh, thanks. Especially mothers. And sisters. Sisters are funny, too. Come to think of it.
Learned to play your guitar yet, Danny?
What? Oh, my guitar. Hey, I think I've got it all right, Bill. Listen to this. There's a song on the lips of the young voyager. Just a minute, Bill. I want to tell Mildred something. Okay, Mildred, we're all set. There's a song on the lips of the young voyager, and his voice.
That does it. How much oxygen do you have in the tent?
8 meters a minute.
Fine. Stay with him and report any changes in pulse pressure. Find out if he has a mother or what.
They did what they could for Danny Miller. And then they sent for Mildred. And Mildred sailed in with her foolish hat bobbing with flowers, her high heels higher than ever, the rouge too bright in her pale young cheeks. And the first blow went straight to her heart.
You mustn't be too upset, Mrs. Biller, that he didn't recognize you.
No, sir.
We think he may after a while.
Yes, sir.
We're going to let you stay in his room, but you must not let him know in any way that you're at all upset.
No, sir.
Day comes. And night comes. The wheel of time turns. And Danny Miller hangs on the spokes of eternity. While Mildred with her foolish hat prays and makes foolish promises.
Danny. If you live, Danny, I will never criticize you again. I will never quarrel with your mother again. I will never again make you return anything I bought. I will always be the one to get out of bed for a drink of water. I will go down for the Sunday papers. Please, Daddy. Please live. Please live. Please live.
Help me. Mildred. Mildred. Mama. Mildred, help me. Alone.
whoever you are. Yesterday is spent. Tomorrow owes you nothing. Death is the only merchant with whom your credit is always good. At any time of day or night, you can hear the sudden cry of accounts being settled. The invitation to the sale reads, "Everybody welcome," but no one is eager to accept. The day Danny recognized Mildred, she got the second blow to her foolish, loving heart.
Would you like some water, Mrs. Miller? Would you like a drink of water?
No, sir. Could you explain it to me just once more, please, Doctor?
Yes, of course. Mrs. Miller, your husband has what we call aphasia. That is a loss of the power to articulate speech.
But he knows me. He smiled at me.
He knows you, and he understands, we think, everything that's said to him, but he is unable to speak.
Can I call him my brother? Do you mind if I call him my brother?
Of course, please do.
He's a college man. He's waiting right outside the door. The doctor wants to tell you what's the matter with Danny, Bill. This is my brother, Doctor.
How do you do, Doctor?
I was explaining to your sister that the shell fragment which hit Danny pierced the left parietal region of the brain, severing the association fibers which translate our thoughts into speech.
Danny knew me, Bill. He kissed me.
Just a minute, Mildred. What did it do to Danny, Doctor?
It has destroyed the speech pattern.
He knew me, Bill. He kissed me.
Just a minute, Mildred. You mean Danny can't talk?
He can't remember how to talk.
He knew me, Bill. Danny knew me.
When will he remember?
He can never remember because that is exactly what seems to have been destroyed. The speech memory. But we will be able to help him build up an entire new speech pattern. The way he did when he was a child.
You want me to explain it to you, Mildred?
No, Bill. No. Don't explain it to me. Don't explain anymore.
There are things that talk, and things that are dumb. A dog barks, a bird sings, but a stick, a rock, a lump of earth are still. A lion roars, but a leaf is silent. A baby cries. Man talks. But you listen to a blade of grass pushing through the ground, and you hear nothing. Danny Miller, man among men, is a stick, a rock, a lump of earth. Danny Miller, man among men, is a broken bell, a cracked glass, a well without a bucket.
Sit down, Danny. That's right. Now, Danny, you already know that you will be able to speak again, don't you? Yes. That is what we've been learning in the last few months. That you will be able to talk again. We know that it will take time. You will have to work very hard. That you must not let yourself be discouraged, and you must not let yourself be afraid. You will be able to speak again. Isn't that right, Danny? Good. Now we will have a look at the alphabet again. Here is a card, Danny, with the letters of the alphabet. Can you point to the letter A on this card? Put your finger on the letter A. Good. That's good, then. A as in apple. Here is an apple, Danny. Take the apple in your hand. Can you say apple, Danny? Ah!
Man is blessed with wisdom, graced with beauty. He has a thumb. He discovered fire. He walks upright in the sight of God. He flies in the air. He walks across water. He makes music out of wood and bone. But he cannot face infinity. He is afraid of mortality. He cannot stand his loneliness. He must not hear silence. He must be ushered into daylight with good morning, folded into sleep with good night. And in between waking and sleeping, he must be comforted by the brave, sweet sound of human speech. A man who does not speak hears the sound of infinity and is afraid.
Now let us try some sounds we've learned, Danny. Here is a card with a sound written on it. You had this sound before. Can you say this sound for me, Danny? Good. The sound is D. Now, what words do you know that make use of the sound D? Can you say a word that uses the sound D? D. Good. Very good. Now, what other word do you know with the sound D? We learned it yesterday, Danny. Another word with the sound D. 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 Very good.
Why are you sweating, Danny? The man said good. The man is pleased. Why do your hands grow cold? Why are your eyes filled with anxiety? Why does your tongue twist and turn in your muted mouth? What are you trying to say, Danny?
Now, Danny, we will recite the months of the year. Can you tell me what month this is? This is May. You remember, Danny? Good. This is the month of May. May. 2 years ago, May, you and I started learning together, and you've made wonderful progress since then. You've learned to say a great many words since then. May. This is May. Now let us recite the months of the year.
What's going on with me? I don't know what's going on with me. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with me.
Now, Danny, let us try the months of the year. January.
I say the words. I say them dead plain. But they split themselves up. The words do not finish. It all comes up on top of it. It doesn't pronounce itself.
want to try it, Danny? You can do it. Let's just start together. January.
Yeah.
February.
Where?
March.
March.
April.
April.
May. June. July. August. September. October. November. December.
Who's there? Who's there crying in the room? Is it you, Danny? Is that you crying behind your silent face? Is it you, Danny, crying for your deadened tongue, your empty days, your young years trickling away from you like water through your hands? The lesson is over now, Danny.
That was good, Danny. Very good. You're doing wonderfully.
You can shake hands now.
Goodbye, Danny. See you tomorrow.
And walk out of the room. Does anyone know, Danny? Did anyone hear you cry, Danny, or is it all locked inside? Who will speak for Danny? Mother, as you love the child playing at your side, will you speak for this mother's son so sorely hurt? Who will speak for silent Danny? Young men speeding toward the goal your dreams evoke, will you speak for him whose youth is gone? Will you speak for him? Children playing in the summer field, will you stop a moment at your play and say a word for the men you'll be someday? Who will speak for young men muted, for people's silence? Who will speak? Will you?
Now we present Brigadier General Julius Klein, National Commander, Jewish War Veterans of the United States. General Klein.
Price of peace is dear. It is a soldier named Danny Miller. It is a Nathan Hale, a Chaim Solomon, a Colleen Kelly, and Maya Levin. Each year at this time, the President of the United States leads us in prayer for a soldier whose name is unknown. The resting place of the unknown soldier bears no label of creed or class or race. It is the tomb only of an American who died that all his brothers might live in freedom and dignity. In the immortal roster of men who have died in defense of America's liberty are men whose ancestors lived daily with terror and subjugation in foreign lands. They died in the service of democracy, so that we, who came after them, might never have to live in bondage to tyrants and oppressors. Among them are men whose brothers are the unknown soldiers of Lidice and Warsaw, Rotterdam and Oslo. We can never repay in full the debt we owe them, but we honor them through the years that we mold our lives to the principles for which they died. We can keep their memory alive if we serve as they served. We can keep faith with them if we continue to guard the rights of all Americans to work, to worship, and to live without fear. We can honor them truly if we reject clearly and firmly any attempt to defame or discriminate against a fellow American whose religion or national origin is different from ours. The heroic dead we honor the man who served more than a single nation. They preserved our country and its freedom, but they also fought against fear and suspicion, hatred and distrust. In every page of our history, They as living proof that they fought as protectors and never as aggressors. They took from the enemy only what he had taken from others by violence and illegality. Everywhere they fought, new, free nations came into being, and man returned to the ways of a peaceful living. The President has asked us to join with him in a common prayer. Let us ask humbly for peace among nations and true brotherhood among all men, and thus show ourselves truly worthy of the sacred trust left us by our honored dead.
Thank you, General Klein. Eternal Light drama today, The Return of Danny Miller, which marks the observance of Memorial Day, was written by Sylvia Berger. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. John Sylvester was featured as Danny Miller. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Free time to present The Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you have any comments or inquiries about today's broadcast, please write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations make free time available to present The Eternal Light. This program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our play today by Irving Feynman is based on the biblical Book of Ruth and is entitled Boaz Makes Up His Mind. We present it in observance of the Jewish festival of Shavuot. Featured in the cast are Alexander Scobie as Boaz and Bryna Rayburn as Ruth.
Come on there with the barley. The pressures are waiting. It's time to quit, Boaz. The sun is setting fast. Shall I let the men go?
No, Eli. Let them eat and sleep here on the threshing floor. It'll be a fine night with a full moon. We can get started at dawn and finish the threshing tomorrow.
Good, Boaz. I'll tell them.
One moment. The gleaners have not finished gathering the fallen grain. Let them continue a while if they wish. And that young woman from Moab.
Naomi's Ruth?
Yes, Ruth. See that she gets plenty to glean. And see that the men do not molest her.
You told me that yesterday and the day before, Boaz. You've got that woman on your mind. Yeah?
No, Eli. It's only that she's younger and gentler than the women who come to glean, and
Mm-hmm. Naomi's husband, Elimelech, was one of my kin.
Ruth is young enough, but she looked as if she could not be easily molested. The women of Moab...
Tell the men to stop work, Eli. We'll have corn and roast lamb for supper and plenty of wine.
Yes, Boaz.
Time to quit, men. We'll eat and sleep tonight on the threshing floor.
She is on your mind. You cannot deny she's been a good deal in your thoughts since she first appeared gleaning in your field. You cannot deny that you were stirred at first sight of Ruth. She's so different, this woman of Moab, from the women you've known, the women of Bethlehem. Look at her there in the field. A magnificent creature. Handsome, sturdy, and self-possessed. Yet gentle and sweet. And when you learned who she was and heard the tale of her loyalty to Naomi, how after the death of Elimelech and his sons, Naomi left Moab to return to Bethlehem, and Ruth said to Naomi,
"Entreat me not to leave thee, and to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God my God. Where thou diest, will I die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if aught but death part thee and me."
Yes, you were very much taken with her, weren't you? Even her way of speaking enchanted you. You began to take a kindly interest in her welfare and protecting her from the lusty young men who work in your fields. Other women glean in your field, poor wretches. Yes, but Ruth is the widow of Mahlon, son of Elimelech, and a princess in her own land. And how beautiful to behold in the field, bending to gather the grain. But she's a strange woman from an enemy country, and you'd best forget her.
The fire is good, and the lamb was well roasted. A good way to end the day.
Yes. The men have done a good day's work. We have as fine a harvest as any in Judah.
And there's much to be done tomorrow. We'd better be going to sleep.
Oh, a while longer, Eli. This is a magic night.
You're right, Boaz. A night for making merry.
Mm-hmm.
Pass me that wineskin, brother. Let every man drink until his eyes shall be red with wine. Ah. Here, Boaz.
Blessed is the Lord God of Israel, who created the fruit of the vine.
How about you, Elias? Will you drink with us?
Like a city broken down and without a wall, so is he whose spirit is without restraint.
A strong man wants no restraint. Nor have we any need of walled cities. Did we not beat those Jebusites back behind the great walls of their city when they tried to steal our crops? I'll be a son of Belial if we won't drive them altogether from their stronghold. I'll take it tomorrow if you come with me, Boaz.
Cease your drunken boasting, Gibor. Surrounded as we are by enemies, we shall not be safe here unless we rout out the strangers who come to sojourn among us and they spy out our land.
Elias is thinking about that Moabite woman, Boaz. All women frighten Elias. Drink some of that wine, Elias, and you won't be afraid of women. Isn't that so, men?
Wine is a mocker. Strong drink, a brawler, and whosoever gets reeling drunk is a fool.
Listen to him.
You laugh like idiots. What I say is true. We shall not be safe until we rout out the spies among us.
True it is, Elias, that we are surrounded by dangerous enemies who send in their treacherous spies among us. But Moses said, "Love ye the stranger, for we were strangers in the land of Egypt." And Moses said, "A stranger shalt thou not wrong, neither shalt thou oppress him."
We shall have to rise up before dawn to finish the threshing. Are you not ready for sleep, Boaz?
No, the night is fine, the moon shining like silver so high in the sky, and the stars swinging low like lamps in the warm wind. I shall sit up yet a while, Elias.
Time to sleep, men. Let's rise before dawn.
Elias has too much of the self-denying spirit. And you too, Boaz. There you sit not drinking when you could be as drunk as I am. There you are without a wife when you could marry any woman in Bethlehem. though I must say it's a fine, free life you live here in your fields. Drink, Boaz. Pass me the skin.
Yes, indeed, I cherish my freedom to do whatever I wish as I shall tonight, sleeping there by that great heap of grain under the sky. And yet, the Lord God himself said to Adam, it is not good for man to be alone. And he gave him Eve. But when I do take a woman to wife, it will not be one whose rich father sells her to me like a slave. Oh, no, will I be tricked into marriage. I shall marry only a woman of my own choosing, as Jacob took Rachel, because he loved her. Huh? What's that? Who's there?
It is I.
Who?
I am Ruth. Naomi's Ruth.
Ah, Ruth. But what are you doing there at my feet?
I have covered myself with thy cloak, Boaz. Thou hast been kind to me.
But I do not want you at my feet. Get up, Ruth, so that I may see you and know you're not but a dream.
Yes, Boaz.
Come here to me. I've looked at you often from afar, Ruth, and found you very beautiful. And now it is a wonderful, unspeakable delight to have you near me in the moonlight.
Nor can I speak, Boaz, of my delight to be here. When I left Moab with Naomi, I knew only that I could not be happy there, because my spirit had been weaned from the evil ways of Moab and was forever married to the spirit of Naomi's people, of thy people.
And are you happy among us?
It is not always pleasant to be an alien, Boaz, a stranger in a strange land, to be looked upon with suspicion by the women and with wantonness by the men who have heard of the abominable rites before Baal. But in thy field I have found kindness, and now that I have come to thee, I know that only with thee can I have the fullness of happiness.
But you should not have come here in the night. What if you're seen? You know what will be said of you by the men here and by the women in Bethlehem. They will speak of the shamelessness of the women of Moab.
Let them speak. For thou art good, Boaz, and strong, and thou wilt protect me from all evil.
But how do you know I will protect you?
Because thou hast done so already. And dost thou know why, Boaz?
I have wondered.
Because thou lovest me, Boaz. And that is why I have not feared to come to thee in the night, to remind thee that thou art our near kinsman, Naomi's, and therefore mine, and that it is thy right to redeem the land of Elimelech, the husband of Naomi, and to raise up again the name of the dead on his inheritance. Is it unseemly to thee that I should tell thee of thy right to marry me, Boaz?
No, Ruth. I love your courage. But there is another man who is a closer kinsman than I. It is told the merchant in Bethlehem was the first right of redemption.
But him I do not love, Boaz.
Come near to me, Ruth. You're very beautiful. And it is a wonderful delight to breathe your fragrance with the fragrance of harvest night. But you must go now, for you must not be seen here. In the morning I shall go to Bethlehem and speak to Tob about the redemption. Here, take some of this grain in your cloak for Naomi. And go quickly now.
Until tomorrow, boy.
How like a dream. As if in a dream she came out of the darkness into the soft moonlight. What ineffable joy and pride in her love and faith have come to you, uncalled, like a gift from the opulent night. And now how enchanting it is to watch her descend the hill through the pasture, her shapely hips swinging so gracefully, her sturdy shoulders bowed under the burden of your gift, her lovely form merging with the shadows of the trees by the roadside. How like a dream.
Boaz?
Yes, no.
Well, it'll be a fine day for fresh
And I
air.
could have sworn I saw a beautiful young woman walking in the moonlight. She must have been gleaning because she was carrying a bundle.
Oh, did you go after her?
By the time I bestirred myself, she was gone.
Oh, just a dream.
But I would have sworn...
Something troubling you, Boaz?
No, get the men started. I have to ride up to Bethlehem.
Won't you eat first?
No, I cannot eat now. I must go right away. Get them started.
Off to the threshing, men. Wait a moment, Boaz.
Yes?
I saw the woman through.
Well? It is because of her that you're troubled. That you're going to Bethlehem.
Yes. It is because of her.
She has bewitched you.
Yes, she has bewitched me.
Listen, Boaz. Yesterday, after a fine day's work, you ate with gusto and drank heartily. You made merry with your men, boasting of your liberty, and lay down to rest satisfied, without a care. As carefree as the youngest of us. There you are, overnight, in a fair way to lose this precious freedom.
I'm merely going to Bethlehem to see Tob the merchant, who was her nearest kinsman. He
Do
will
not
doubtless
go, Boaz. Why go up to Bethlehem? For years you escaped the scheming men and women of Bethlehem, eluded their wiles, continued to live this free, robust life in your broad fields among your men. And now, in the middle of the harvest, you've been captured like Samson by the strange woman. Admit that you were taken by surprise.
Yes, I was startled, Eli. Aroused in the night to find her at my feet. That strange, courageous woman with her sturdy bearing and the soft darkness of her undaunted eyes. She followed the prompting of her heart. In her straightforward manner, she came to me without evasion. I'm Ruth, she said softly in the night, and swept me off my feet. Yes, Eli, I was carried away, captured.
Then forget all about it. Do not go up to Bethlehem.
But I've given my word. I must go. Bewitched and captured. And why did she not come to you in the day, but in the night after you'd eaten and drunk and made merry? And who told her that you were her near kinsman? That was Naomi's doing. Have you resisted the women of Bethlehem only to fall a victim to the bold proposal of this woman of Moab? Belial take it? Anyway, nothing is settled yet. You've still to see Tob. That beady-eyed merchant is a shrewd, avaricious bargainer. Just show an interest in the worthless, long-neglected property of Elimelech, and Tob will surely hold out for a profit on his right to redeem it. And that will let you out. That is, of course, if you really want to get out of it. Remember her upturned face in the moonlight, the sweet warmth of her lips, the graceful swing of her hips as she walked, her glimmering feet in the grass. But an alien woman, what do you know of her strange ways and desires disturbing your life, your freedom? Though she did say to Naomi, thy people shall be my people, my God, my God. Who can believe anything a woman says? Only yesterday your mind was at peace, and now... Belial, take it. You've given your word. You said you would go and see Tob.
It appears that love, my dear Boaz, is not only blind, but deaf.
I'm not interested in your proverbs, Tob. All I want to know is whether you are interested in redeeming the property of Elimelech.
I'm very much interested in redeeming that property, Boaz, very much indeed. In fact, I had practically decided to redeem it before you came to me. Unless, of course, you would consider paying a good price for my right, huh? I see you don't want to pay for it. I wonder if you want it at all, Boaz. I thought you wanted it because the hand of Elimelech's daughter-in-law went with it, but perhaps you're not sure you want the Moabite woman. Do you or don't you?
What is that to you?
Only that if you surely wanted her, I would make you pay. But as it is, I've decided to forego my right. I don't want her. She's no bargain for me, Boaz.
And what do you mean by that?
As I was saying before, Boaz, when you so rudely stopped me, love is not only blind, but deaf, or you know. Every man to his taste, of course, but she's not to mine.
And what, may I ask, do you find wrong with her?
She's too independent. Woman's place, my dear Boaz, is in the home.
Oh.
We have too much extolled those strong-minded matriarchs like Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel. It sets a bad example.
I'd not want my daughter Reba to behave that way. This young woman's got herself talked about in Bethlehem with her independence, boldly running about doing a peasant's work. Immodesty, some people call it. And I may as well tell you that people have been saying worse things. Only this morning I heard that late last night she'd been seen going... Now, don't look at me that way, Boaz. I mean no offense, only telling you what's being said.
All right, then tell me. Sit down and tell me. I want to know all about her.
You should, of course, if you're thinking of marrying her. Now, what I've said may all be woman's gossip. But aside from that, I must say I don't see how you can look with pleasure on the prospect of having Naomi as your mother-in-law. I'm not saying she's not a noble old woman. It's a hard time and all that, but she's much too crafty. Of course, she cannot be blamed for wanting a good home, and when a man's in love, he doesn't mind so much being taken in. But really, Boaz, the way she set out to get a good match for her outlandish daughter-in-law, egging her on, everybody's been talking about it. It may be a mere accident, my dear Boaz, that the Moabites came to glean in your fields, but there are people in town, I must tell you, who think differently. Of course, I would not go so far as to say, as some do, that Naomi induced her to come to Bethlehem for the sole purpose of getting a man.
I break every
No, but Boaz, you said you wanted to know what...
You may keep the rest of your slanders for mean-minded men like yourself. Weak, despicable creatures afraid of strong women. But suppose he's telling the truth. Hooked. That's what you've been, hooked. You suspected it all along, and that's what's been troubling you. You're no better than the rest. Scheming women. Setting their traps like Delilah, first to catch a man's eye in his heart and then destroying his freedom. Scheming all the time. What of last night? Naomi preparing Ruth, instructing her.
Wait, my daughter, until he has eaten and drunk, and his heart is merry. And
that damnable Toad was right. You've been blind and deaf. But do not let yourself be taken in. Go to those women now and charge them openly. They will not dare deny it. Think of the peace of mind you had yesterday. And now this gnawing suspicion. Oh, Lord God of Israel, grant me that peace again.
Watch the bread carefully, Ruth. A man likes good bread. Dead. 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 Did you do as I told you?
I did just as you told me, Naomi. He said he would speak to Toad today.
Be assured, my daughter, he will not rest until he has settled the matter. Oh, but see who is here. Boaz, just at this moment I had you in mind. Come in.
The door was open, Naomi. I heard what you said.
The worst men say that even a husband should knock when he is not expected.
You were right, Naomi. I have not rested. And now I want rest and peace from the tormenting business of this day. I've come to tell you
Sit down, Boaz. You look tired. Ruth is baking bread for the Sabbath. She made fine flour of the grain you gave her. The bread smells good, does it not? Ruth, Boaz is here. Come and talk to him. I knew you would come, Boaz.
Naomi, I came to say that
Sit
you
down,
and Ruth...
Boaz, and wait for her.
That I know you've planned this.
Having been the wife of one and the mother of two men, I know well the proud nature of men.
I know that I've been bewitched into
Since
giving
the
up...
time of our mother Eve, men have blamed women for giving them what they most wanted. Look at me, Boaz.
Her face is lined with furrows worn like tracks in an ancient road, as if ridden by recurring sorrows. In her patient old eyes there is little of craft, but much of wisdom, of the needs of a man and of the perversity of his proud nature.
I will draw you a cup of wine, Boaz. Are you coming, Ruth?
In a moment.
She has learned the songs of the women of Israel. Here, Boaz, drink. Rest.
Women know very well what will soften a man's heart. Wine and a song. But this patient woman who was a good mother to her sons and a faithful wife to Elimelech, who went bravely with her men to a strange land in their adversity and suffered there, does she not deserve a resting place in her old age?
Here is Ruth.
Yes. Here is Ruth, silent, expectant, wiping her brown hands on her apron. Ruth with her brave, undaunted look, her sweet lips, her firm body, sturdy and straight as a cypress. Where is her like in all of Judah? The spell of her eyes, dark and soft as the autumn night, is again upon you. Belial, take it. Why have you resisted? She's a mate for a prince. Give me your hand, Ruth. Joy and great peace have enfolded me like a cloak. I've made up my mind.
I love thee too, Boaz. She is better to me than 7 sons.
She is worthy to be the mother of kings.
So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And she bare a son. And Naomi took the child and became nurse unto it. And the women, her neighbors, gave it a name, saying, There is a son born to Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David.
Now we present a brief talk by the Reverend Dr. Louis C. Gerstein, Associate Rabbi of the Spanish and Portuguese Synagogue.
I wonder whether in listening to the broadcast today, you found in the story the same striking idea as I did. Here in this tale, Jewish tradition, significantly, has chosen for its heroine not a Jewess, but a woman of a different people, Ruth, the woman of Moab. This fact is stated in the story quite casually, without any moralizing or preaching. But here is the great truth it emphasizes. When it comes to judging a person, it is not the birth or ancestry, the creed or color that is all important. What really counts is the character of that person, what he is and what he does, what he thinks and how he acts, and how he is able to work with others. These are the all-important questions to consider in judging a person. Judaism has always been concerned with questions such as these. Does the person evidence a love and respect for all human beings? Is he self-centered, or does he feel keenly the plight of his fellow man? Does he think only of himself, or is he ready to cooperate with others? In a word, does he live among men with a high dignity befitting a human being? These are among the questions which must be answered in evaluating a man or woman, whether from Moab or from Mars. Are these not also among the crucial questions in America today? America has never put a premium alone on whence a man comes. America is more interested in where he stands and whither he is going. True Americans are less interested in the color of a man's skin than in the character of his work. True Americans are less interested in what creed a man is born into than in the convictions by which he lives. Here is the forthright challenge all of us must face. Do we live as true Americans? May we ever be stirred by this challenging idea found embodied in the Jewish tradition and found in all true religious teaching. The inherent worth of every human being. May this idea grow and flourish, flower and fruit wheresoever men live. And when we learn to judge men and women, not by their ancestry or birth, not by their creed or color, but by their character, their capabilities, their actions, and their deeds, then shall we be able to live and work and build together the better tomorrow for all mankind.
Thank you, Dr. Gerstein. Today's Eternal Light dramatization, Boaz Makes Up His Mind, was written by Irving Feynman. The music was composed by Morris Mamorsky and conducted by Milton Caton. Cantor Robert H. Siegel sang the liturgical introduction. The role of Boaz was played by Alexander Scobie, and Bryna Rayburn was Ruth. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. Free time to present the Eternal Light is made available by the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations. This weekly program is presented under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. If you have any comments or inquiries about today's broadcast, please write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. Because of the Jewish holiday of Shavuot, the festival of Pentecost, this program will not be heard next Sunday. Listen in 2 weeks from today to hear the Eternal Light again. This is NBC, the National Broadcasting Company.